welcome to the plot summary video for Lady Audley's Secret. At the beginning of the novel, one of the main characters, Robert Audley, meets his friend George Talboys, who has just returned from Australia after having made his fortune. Upon returning, George learns that his wife Helen has died, and in an attempt to distract George from his grief, Robert suggests that they visit his uncle, who has recently married the young and beautiful Lucy Graham. When they arrive at his uncle's manor, the new Lady Audley goes to suspicious lengths to avoid meeting George, but eventually George and Robert are shown a portrait of Lady Audley, and George is captivated by what he sees. Not long after this, George disappears, and Robert suspects that Lady Audley has got something to do with the disappearance. As he's a barrister, Robert starts collecting evidence against her. He eventually finds a book which contains the handwriting of George's wife Helen, and it matches Lady Audley's exactly. Robert also finds little Georgie, who is Helen and George's son, and little Georgie's description of his mother is remarkably similar to that of Lady Audley. In Robert's search for the truth, he is joined by Clara Talboys, who is George's sister, and he takes a bit of a fancy to her. Spurred on by Clara's enthusiasm, Robert eventually finds the final piece of the puzzle, a box that belonged to Lady Audley before she was married, which underneath a label has the name Helen Talboys on it. Robert learns that Helen Talboys faked her own death and assumed the new identity of Lucy Graham. Robert then returns to his uncle's manor and confronts Lady Audley. Later that night, Lady Audley descends into a mad rage and sets fire to the inn where Robert is staying in an attempt to kill him. However, Robert survives, and he forces Lady Audley to confess her real identity to her new husband. Lady Audley breaks down and explains how George abandoned her and her son to go to Australia. She claims that she has hereditary madness which she inherited from her mother, and in a fit of madness she decided to fake her own death and abandon her child in an attempt to find a new wealthy husband who could provide for her. Robert has a doctor examine Lady Audley to try to determine whether or not she's telling the truth, and the doctor concludes that she could be mad, but he's not entirely convinced. Regardless, Robert has Lady Audley committed to a Belgian asylum where she admits that she pushed George down a well when he confronted her about her real identity. Robert returns to England distraught, but it turns out that George survived the attack and the two friends are reunited. Robert then marries George's sister Clara, and the pair move in with George and his son and essentially live happily ever after. Eventually they receive a note to say that Lady Audley has died, and they can all rest assured that she will never torment them again. To watch the original video discussing madness in Lady Audley's Secret, just click here.